Hello, this is Joe Pryor with the virtualrealestateteam.com in Oklahoma City, a part of Redbud Realty and Associates. And this is part 3 in our series about using leverage in real estate investment in the Oklahoma City, Oklahoma market. Now again, the definition of leverage is instead of buying something with complete cash, we're using a mortgage. In other words, we're taking a percentage of that, 20% down in the case of Fannie Mae, and the leverage becomes 80% in the mortgage amount. And what we did is we said, hey, it's okay to buy something cash, except for the fact that if you buy something at $90,000 and you have it vacant, you have 100% vacancy rate, and you still have expenses. And so there is a negative amount, a negative return in that month. If you took that money and you bought 4 properties at 20% down with some closing cost added, and you had one vacant, then you would have a 25% vacancy rate. And the positive cash flow that's coming in off 3 properties would typically pay for all 4, where you're not taking a loss. And that is one of the advantages of leverage, as well as the fact that in that example we were making $1,600 a month with full occupancy versus $900 a month. So we were actually bringing in more cash flow. Now, what we did in the second video is we talked about internal rate of return, which is for the length of time that you own that property and you keep the money in that property, what is your annualized percentage return? And that is a complex formula, as I said, and we do it on an Excel spreadsheet, put a lot of factors in there, and we make a certain amount of educated guesses about that 7-year period, for instance, or that 10-year period of what's going to happen with rents, vacancy, maintenance, property management fees, appreciation. We do it conservatively, so we're really trying to exceed that number. But again, we're looking at a long-term analysis and we are making predictions. But there are 2 other ways that we can evaluate buying with leverage that will give you an idea about what happens in the first year of the investment. And these are real numbers. In other words, in a very short period of time, we really can predict what is probably going to happen. So those 2 analyses are capitalization rate and cash on cash. Now let's start with capitalization rate. So to give you a simple example, let's say we invested $100,000 in a property, 20% down payment to $20,000, 80% in a mortgage. That's leverage, and so we have $100,000 total. Then we take the net operating income. And net operating income are monthly expenses not counting principal and interest debt service. So we take in taxes, insurance, property management fees, maintenance, for instance, are things that we evaluate in that. And then what we do is we look at how much do we have at the end of the year. So let's say that net operating income was $10,000. That is a 10% capitalization rate. That is, by most investors, both commercially and residentially, a good number. In other words, they say, hey, Joe, if you can deliver me a 10 cap, I'm going to look seriously at buying it. So that is the first thing that we look at. What is the capitalization rate? And 10% is kind of a magic number. It's not an absolute number, but it's a magic number to a lot of investors. Now, the second one, and some people value this even higher, is what we call cash on cash. Very simply, you're putting cash out for that investment. So you're putting out a certain amount of down payment. What you want to know is how much real dollars do I get back in that first year? Now, for this equation, what we do is we take that net operating income that we did on capitalization rate, and we add in also the amount of debt service we have for principal and interest. And so after we take that amount, we contrast that with the amount of money you put out for a down payment, and that comes up with how much percentage of my cash am I getting back in that first year. Now, let's take a real-world example for both of these that I figured out. We talked about a $45,000 investment, that we have a local investor that they are buying it. So what I did is I took maintenance, I took taxes, insurance. Now, I didn't take property management fees because they self-manage. Now, the good news about that, we're talking about buying short sales, of course, where you have leverage. So we're talking about a property that would go $65,000 on a maximum appraisal. You're buying at $45,000, you're doing 20% down, that's $9,000 cash out. And what you have left is a $36,000 mortgage. In other words, you've got about $29,000 in equity to play with, so you're really protected against the downside. Then we take the amount of money we can get from rent on that $45,000 property, which by my property manager's account is $700 a month. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to calculate the capitalization rate. which I do. And I want you to know that that capitalization rate is 15.22%. So if 10% is really good, 15.22 is outstanding. And I know very few investors that wouldn't go for that. So that's our first equation. Now we take that $36,000, we take, say, the 5% interest rate over 30 years, and we take the principal and interest that we pay in 1 year, and we take that off of that. So what we net out at that point on that $45,000 investment is going to tell us how much of that $9,000 we get back. In this case, it is rounded up, and it's almost this amount, 38% cash on cash. That means in the first year, you're getting 38% of your money back. And so, considering that property is in good condition, we can pretty well tell you that something really bizarre happens, that in 3 years or less, the cash that you put out, the actual dollars you put out, are coming back to you. That is money that you can reinvest into another property. That is money that you can do other things with, put into retirement. And so, it is a very quick return. So this is the way that we look at leverage. First of all, it allows you to buy more property, protect yourself against vacancy. We're buying short sales in Oklahoma City, so we are buying into an equity position in a stable market. We're looking at long-term effects. Are we going to hold it 5, 7, or 10 years? And we do a return on investment pre- and post-tax. And we're going to do a pre-tax video here pretty soon about what you can do on selling it and why that number is important. And then what we can do is take a short-term market snapshot, the capitalization rate, the cash on cash, and tell you what you're going to get back in that first year so you can see if it's a good investment for you. So if you're an investor, please contact us. Contact me at joe@joepryor.com, through the websites, through this video, in terms of a comment. Let us tailor a specific program for you. If you are a distressed homeowner in the Oklahoma City, Oklahoma area, remember, right now, I've got commitments for over 50 properties from investors wanting to buy your property. So please contact us because we very well may have an investor. And they are the best possible people to buy your short sale. They're patient. They're not going to run out of time. They want the deal. They're going to buy. So this is Joe Pryor with the virtual realestateteam.com in Oklahoma City, where we deliver traditional real estate values at the speed of technology.